There we go. Okay.
Ready to go. There we go. Hey y'all, thanks for coming through today for our Culture Bites Plantain Prologue Jam post jam showcase. Today we'll be showing a couple games that were made during the last jam that we had about 2 to 3 weeks ago. Um, for the Plantain Prologue Jam, we had two teams showing off their games today. So we'll take a look at those and see what people learn, see the interesting things that we went through for the theme, and have a good time. So
Yeah.
welcome. My name is Timothy. I'm joined today with my other co-host Bear. Um, and
Howdy, howdy. Yeah, excited
yeah,
to go over the submissions. Yeah.
yeah. Um, Real quick, the Plantain Prologue Jam, we base it on the theme of perspective shift. So the games were made with that in mind, and also the African diaspora as a focus. Let me go ahead and jump into a quick intro for the Game Kitchen as a whole. For those that might not know, that'll be watching. So the Millennium Game Kitchen is a collective of game creators, artists, designers, programmers, writers, musicians, blah blah blah, all focused on creating and curating new, unique, interactive experiences for the culture, encompassing the entire African diaspora. And then in the meantime, we are learning and growing together in our craft of interactive experiences. So we provide through our Discord and conversations a space for creators of all experience levels, new game developers, just brand new to the industry, and also industry veterans. And we place an emphasis on pooling all of our skills and resources together, share knowledge, so our members can learn more professional development practices, and allows us to create more unique games as we progress. So that's the gist. So we do these game jams as a way to explore interesting themes, try out new ways of like making and creation, and giving people experience to make stuff together, and to pool together our resources to make new stuff. So that's what this last jam was about in a nutshell. But yeah, I guess should we jump into it there with our
Yeah.
for our first game? Yeah.
Ready to go. Yeah,
Um,
ready to go.
Okay, cool. So we're
Uh,
gonna start off with bringing in Levester, representing his team from the Jam. Let's see.
Hey, how's it
Hey,
going?
Levester, what's going on, man?
Not much.
Cool. Why don't you give a quick intro of yourself and your background in games, right quick?
Well, my name is Levesta Posey. I am a AR VR developer. I use Unity mainly to build my augmented reality and virtual reality systems. I've been developing about 4 years now. I love just working with the system and just making these experiences. My day job, I'm actually a AR VR instructor, so that's what I do during the week. So I'm pretty much in Unity 24/7.
All the time. Yes. That's what's up. That's what's up. Awesome.
Mhm.
And you and your team participated in the jam. How many people did y'all have this
Oh,
time
yeah,
around?
sorry. Our team, we named ourselves Plantain VR. We had 6 people, um, and there's all different backgrounds. We had Demetrix, he was our artist. We had Tanya, she is a 3D environmentalist. Me was a developer, Unity developer. We had Dave with the audio, and we had 2 writers, and we had a special guest. My wife did some voiceover work for it as well. We had
Oh
our
yeah,
writers
that's
were
right.
Stephanie and Laura.
Right. I did have some voiceover, some VO. That was good.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah, they had some big teams this time around compared to the other
Hmm.
jams. This is in particular this is your first time working with a team, right?
Yep.
So we'll have you chime in on that a little bit after we show off the game itself. That's
Hmm.
cool. Um, yeah, what do you say we jump into showing the game? Doing maybe we do the live video, um, and you can give like a little synopsis of it as well, of like what the experience
Hmm.
is and whatnot.
All right.
Yeah.
So yeah, we came up with the name of Between the Ages, and the theme, since the theme was perception shift, um, we went with being able to travel between different periods of time and just seeing the difference between those. Um, sorry, hold on.
There we there we go.
All right, sorry, gotta be a dad at the same time. But yeah, so our theme was perspective shift, and we was traveling between two different ages. And as you can see, when we first start out, you start out as a child, and you're at your grandma's house, and you just see it's more playful and things like that. We just let it get to that part in the game. And then the
Hmm.
overall theme is you're at your grandma's house, and you don't know that your family is just like a secret. Let me say like secret warriors, but they have secret powers and everything. So as you progress through the game, you find out that your grandma made these special plantains that allows her to travel between time, and she's going to give you that power, and she teaches you how to gain that power and use that power.
Mm.
So right here, you can see you pretty much a child. The play mat, you can see things are bigger for you. This little mouse here is supposed to be like your imaginary friend. He's talks to you and follow you around. If you go to the refrigerator here, you can see like some of your work that you've done as a kid, your drawings and things like that. And then just showcasing the house and just seeing everything around here.
Yeah,
This
y'all got
bathroom.
the movement with the trigger movement, right? The teleport
Hmm.
movement for this in this
So
case.
yeah. Hmm. So yeah, I don't know if I mentioned this is a VR game. So it is virtual reality. So we built it for the Rift and Oculus.
Right, right.
Malcolm,
Hmm.
I thought I
And then
told
Yeah.
you
just
not to
the
wet
main
your
movement is
stuffed
just
animal.
grabbing
Come on
things
into my
with the
room.
controllers and also just teleporting.
Yeah, that's like the main mechanic, right? The interaction of
Hmm.
things, seeing what things
Unlock
do,
these
and there's
drawers to
a little
discover
bit
our
of a
family's
puzzle
past
element
and
going
more.
on with some of this.
Yep.
You'll need
Hmm.
plantains
So yeah,
to
so
turn
since
you
it's in
green,
VR, we wanted
for
to
green for young
be
and
more
yellow is
more
age.
immersive pretty
When
much.
ready.
So we didn't couldn't just have like
Next,
prompts
I
telling you what to
told you to
do.
put away
You
your
pretty much had to go
toys.
around the house and find clues of what to do. And if you would have went back to that refrigerator, well, the refrigerator says you got to do your chores. So it's just a note there.
Mm, yeah, so
And then
not too much hand holding or anything.
hmm and then like the grandma's voice is also like in the background, like Malcolm. Well, the character name is Malcolm. It's like Malcolm, you need to do this. Malcolm, you need to do that. Just to instruct you, like you would in the real world, like your parents trying to tell you something to do.
Grandma? Granny?
Hmm.
This is
Yeah,
strange.
and here's like the plantain.
Yeah.
Uh,
Your
yeah.
gift
And
is to
this
share.
one things get interesting. So
Only
all that stuff was
grandkids
pretty
have
much
that
just like a
kind of wisdom.
tutorial to show you how to get around. But after you've done that, you're like, oh, some
If
plantains here. I'm
community
kind of
strength
hungry.
is important
So you
enough to
eat
lift
one
a
of them.
nation, what will your journey be,
You
Malcolm?
get
You
close
get
to eat
big.
it.
The power of
Hmm.
plantains is grown in strength.
And that
From
teleports you
one
to
essence to another,
adulthood. And now it's
and
30
now you
years
are
later
ready.
and you're still at your
Only
grandma's house,
becoming
but it's like
alter your
everything's bigger.
destiny.
The colors are a bit more, I want to say duller,
Malcolm,
but they're a bit
but
more
since Vader was
gray
born,
just
now
because
it's yours.
as an adult, things
You've
aren't
ruled your
as
family for
colorful as when
generations.
you was a kid
Have
using your
earned the
imagination and stuff.
plantain power to travel through
And you just
time.
look around the house and you see
You
how
are
things have
here
changed over the
because you
years.
never saw the truth. You never saw your destiny when it was right in front of you. I am a sensei,
Mm, and
and you
then
can learn too.
Yeah.
you eventually find this notebook here, and it's from your grandma. She's saying, "Hey, we are a powerful family, and I need to teach you these ways. Come find me in time." So you pretty much have to master how to use the plantains and find the clues to find your grandma, so she can teach you about your past and how to use the powers of your family.
Mm. That's cool. Yeah,
Hmm.
I like that. I like the kind of theme going on with like the family passing on of like the knowledge and stuff. Even though she's like passed away, kind of
Hmm.
left these things for you to pick up on. Like that's a neat line of like narrative, I think.
Hmm.
Yeah, I like that. And the fact that like y'all were able to get like a little bit of a beginning and end
Hmm.
encapsulated, even though like there's like small stuff I'm sure like y'all wanted to do more along the way as far as like,
Yeah.
oh, this this mini game and this stuff and this part of the narrative. But overall like the main pieces of the narrative are in
Hmm.
place. So
Yeah, I feel like it
yeah.
was a good setup for more to come and like gives you like that cliffhanger to keep going.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. That's what's up. Um Yeah, what would I also thought the interaction that y'all had with the on the ground interacts,
Hmm.
like basically just need to go to this spot
Hmm.
to know that something's gonna like trigger to happen.
Hmm.
Um that was an interesting choice instead of like having like the actual like button interaction. It's just go to
Yeah.
the spot, right?
Hmm.
Um which I don't it's like makes it easy, like simple.
Yeah. So
You
even though
know,
it is VR, we still wanted to give the players some type of direction,
hmm
just so they're just not lost in the sauce.
lost in the sauce.
Hmm.
Yeah. That's cool. That's cool. Okay, yeah. Uh Definitely good review there. Um yeah, are there any other pieces to the gameplay that we didn't go over, or is that pretty much
I don't know. So that's pretty much what we have there, and
okay?
then just further along, just the main mechanics of just going around picking up things for now, and then further along, we probably would have added other things if we had more time to build out things. To
Mm-hmm.
add just like more powers, and just as you figure out your family history, figure out more abilities that you have.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, but I'm assuming like it's kind of envisioned to stay inside the house, right? Like that this house
Hmm.
being like a main piece of like a playroom, so to speak.
Yep.
A
Hmm.
a large puzzle room that changes over time or something,
Hmm.
um, kind of thing. Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. Well, yeah. With that said, we can let's jump into some more questions
All right.
about the jam and the game and stuff like that. Um, I wanted to start off with asking you because this is, and not just because it's one of your first jams, but also because it's that is what were some of the enjoyable aspects of you know the 2 week period and working with a team and getting this to become a real thing.
So I really enjoy just seeing other people's work. Like we had a 2D artist and we had an audio engineer and a 3D environmentalist. So just seeing what they come up with and then
Mm,
how they perceive taking this idea and what they perceive it to be and coming back with their artwork and their design. So I really enjoyed seeing what everybody came up with. Even the writers, when we gave them, they came on the team maybe 2 or 3 days in, and then they
mm-hmm.
just took the what we had already, just the concept of it, and then built the storyline and the voiceover lines for it. Just seeing all this come together, that's what I really enjoyed about it.
Yeah, the collaboration aspect of things and like
Hmm.
what each person brings to the table,
Hmm.
so to speak. Yeah, I can totally get that. Especially like the feeling of working solo for a long time and like having other people
Yeah.
contribute. Um, it's like, oh, this is how this works. I can get with that. Um, okay, so then like that's it. Like, were there some challenges that you experienced, with the process as well?
So we had some team challenges. Um, there was some of our teammates had some family issues, so they had to take some days off to address those and things like that. And then
Mm,
other than that, we just trying to nail down the idea. We didn't have like the concrete idea of what's going to happen about a weekend, and then
yeah.
from there
Okay.
we pretty much took off to finalize things and actually build out the final product.
Yeah, that part is, I think, a common challenge expressed
Mhm.
when it comes to like nailing down the idea, um,
Mhm.
given some of the parameters that we're working with with the
Mhm.
theme and everything. It's like okay, like it's a little difficult, but yeah, like y'all are able to get something down there for the writers to actually like
Yeah.
participate and start writing some stuff before everything was completely nailed down. So
Mhm.
which is good. Um, so given that, like with those, like our parameters, right? Like we have our theme of perspective shift, and
Mhm.
then we have like our just overall focus of for our group being like around the diaspora and creating with that in mind. How did y'all come up with with the idea of like, you know, getting bigger and getting smaller and like this like narrative of like the grandma and those like and like the general interaction, what led
Mhm.
y'all to that conclusion,
Well, coming into this, I want to do a VR project, and I brought up the idea of doing something where you shift between two times, and then somebody else was talking about what if it's have to do with your grandma, because we know when we young we go to our grandma's house, we have fun over there. That's where we usually have like family events. Grandma would cook the meals and all that kind of stuff, when all the kids would just play and all that kind of things, and that's where we just have a fun environment. So we just went with the theme of being at your grandma's house as a kid and just having fun over there. And then from there, it blossomed to, well, okay, so as a kid, we first had the idea of going between three ages, being pretty much a toddler, then a teenager, and then an adult. We eventually just settled on being a toddler and an adult, just because the teenage years and adult years kind of blend together.
Mm.
Um, and then after that, we just decided we handed that idea to the writers, and they came up with a couple ideas. Some of them went gory, some of them went just fun and playful. Cause we didn't know what we wanted to do with grandma. We know we wanted grandma there. We know you wanted to have you learn about your past through your grandma, as if she's passing down the stories of the family. And
Mm.
so one of the ways that could have went is just a playful route, just grandma's out there in time passing you clues. And the other one was grandma um, somewhere lost in time, she died or something. You got to find her killer or something like that and find clues about your family on the way. So we ended up going with just the playful theme, so it wouldn't get too dark.
Yeah, yeah, I hear that.
Hmm.
That sounds like it aligns with like the idea that y'all had initially about like the nice thing about being at grandma's, right? Like
Hmm.
the more playful, positive family
Hmm.
vibe. I think yeah, that sounds like it was a good choice in that way. Yeah. What about like when it came to, the idea of like just doing like these small mini games and like this kind of
Hmm.
more puzzle aspect? Was that like a just because of like a limitation of like, okay, what can we get done? Or was it like, oh, this will fit perfectly for this, you know?
Yeah. So it did kind of fall in the line of what we could get done, because we wanted to pretty much pass between the times. Like in the demo you saw, you only go to the future once, but
Yeah.
in the conception of things, we wanted to pretty much have a scavenger hunt between the two times. So if you travel to the future, you can make a change there, and then go back to the past and see that change happen. So say like as a child, pretty much like the two different time periods, you would see things differently and be able to do things differently. So if there's a clue under the couch, as a child, you can't move the couch, but you can become an adult to move the couch and then go back to the child to get the object that's under the couch.
Mm,
And
mm.
that's like part of like I said, your grandma showing you how to use your powers, so you can make those changes to your past through the powers of the time travel and the plantains.
Yeah, yeah. I
Hmm.
hear that. That makes sense. I
Yeah.
think that fits quite well with the theme as well.
Hmm.
Like the scavenger hunt between the two.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Um, so, considering that, like, with the video and like as you mentioned, like the idea was to have more like the scavenger hunt thing, but we only went to the future once. Um,
Hmm.
what do you think is next for y'all as a team or for the experience? Like, if you had time to do more, what would you decide to do next?
Oh yeah, so the writers they came up with a lot of different mini games and things we could add to the game, and
Yeah.
that would definitely be next. Just once you become an adult and your grandma says she's going to guide you and teach you these powers, and you will go back to the child and find another clue, something in the child world that you need, and then that will lead you back to being an adult and just doing that actual scavenger hunt between the ages until you find your next powers and just build on that storyline until you get all your powers, and then we really didn't know what's going to happen after that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
You kind of like see where that's going to take the narrative,
Yeah.
basically.
Hmm.
I see. Yeah. I mean, it was nice is that it has that thing of like being very confined in a single space.
Hmm.
So that kind of lends itself to a lot of just trying like more ability to try things out and to
Hmm.
not have to worry about like making a lot of like other environmental art necessarily, but like making the space change and evolve over time and really just like get everything out of it that you can, like Reservoir Dogs
Hmm.
or something. Like this one space has all these things happening. Um, so that feels like a good area to expand on. Um, uh, Also, let me ask this too. Let's say that like y'all did that, right? Added the
Hmm.
mini games in, got like more of the narrative piece in. What studio you think you would like shop this to? Like who would, what studio would like, oh yeah, I'm gonna give that money because like, that's like the thing that we would make we want to publish with y'all.
Hmm.
What you think?
So yeah, so probably just the biggest contender would be Oculus, since they are
Oculus?
um, pretty much the
Yeah,
VR world now, and just the more of the consumer side uses Oculus devices. So it would definitely be Oculus.
yeah,
Hmm.
that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, there are quite a few like I would say like smaller, well, not smaller studios, but like
Yeah.
creative studios that are like
Hmm.
making stuff for Oculus, like
Hmm.
that's a thing. Um, or like they're making a VR thing and they like make VR stuff and then it's like, okay. Like
Hmm.
Annapurna, I don't know, like I feel like they like actually like get people to make games, or like publish games. Like, oh
Hmm.
yeah, we're gonna make a VR game, and we're also going to, shop at the Oculus too for you guys or whatever.
Hmm.
That's the exact game I was thinking of, Tim. Yeah, or the exact studio I was thinking of. Yeah.
Annapurna.
Hmm.
And we did design it in a way to use multiple devices. So so we only had two people with VR headsets, and I use the Oculus 2, and then Tanya she has a Vive, so we did have to take that in consideration as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are some challenges with that, right?
Hmm.
The multi-platform, the multi-VR platform piece of
Yeah.
it. Oh man. Well, cool. Well, yeah, I think that's about it for us for this in the game today. Um, you know, knowing that like the game kitchen we do a jam either every month or every 2 months. Um, do you think you'll be joining for the next one, or do you think you'll be taking a little bit of a break to focus on other stuff for a while?
I probably will if I can get on the team again. I do have a pretty busy schedule, but I am excited to do the next one.
But
Hmm.
always good to hear that.
No pressure. No
Hmm.
pressure. No
Yeah,
pressure.
no
Yeah.
pressure.
I do do help think it help build the skills of the team. Everybody seemed to learn something new and develop their skills on the team, so I feel like it really helped.
Yeah, that's awesome. Cool.
Hmm.
All right, Levester. Well, thanks for jumping on to present the game and stuff like that. I'm sure your team appreciated it. Getting a
No
little bit of that
problem.
talk time. It was good chatting
Hmm.
and getting some more background details on how this all came to be. So that's
Hmm.
awesome. We'll go ahead and bring on the next team in that case, and we'll chat with you a little bit later, bro.
All right, talk to you guys later.
All right, cool.
Wow.
That sounds good. Let's see. Let's see. We'll bring in. Go ahead and bring in the next group. I do like the whole narrative that they've crafted for that one in particular. You know, Bear.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
that was pretty neat. Um, the whole grandma and I like the very explicit use of the plantains. It's like kind of corny, but I think all of our teams did something like that at the same time, so it was pretty great.
Sure, sure. Also it was mentioned in the chat as well, by Dreamcore. But I think that's Dave. But
Yeah.
the music specifically was also just like the background beat, was fairly interesting,
Yes.
as well. So.
Yes. I think that's a note for sure that like that particular trailer should be watched like by itself. Just
Mhm.
to if the audio is working. I know the audio didn't come through super well in our stream. So yeah, that would be a notable, and it has the VO stuff and other sound stuff in that one in particular. There's a lot of sounds in that one. I remember. So hopefully that's all in the trailer. Um yeah.
No, it started coming through at the end, yeah. So.
Yeah, right, right. All right, well, bet let's bring in Chad and Vince. They'll be representing the other team that we had a full experience kind of created for. Um, what's up, y'all? Y'all here?
Yes, we are. Hey.
Hey, hey,
Yeah.
hey. Turn on y'all videos if y'all are good for that. If not, it's all good. Um, but yeah, go ahead and introduce yourself and your teams.
Sure. Vincent, I'll go first if that's okay.
That's fine.
Okay. My name is Chad. I am currently not in the industry, but I'm doing game jams and like activities to kind of build up a portfolio and get that experience. In my day job, I work at Johnson and Johnson in the project management sector. I'm also a writer. All right, Vincent. Popcorn.
Okay. My name is Vincent Lassane. I'm also not like in the industry yet, but I've been doing programming primarily in Unity for the past it's been a while. Since like 2012, I think. So I've done a couple game jams before this. I've done like solo and a couple team ones, but this was my first time doing it with like multiple other programmers, I think, in a long time. So it was very interesting.
And then the rest of y'all's team, who's
Yeah.
not showing today.
Yeah. For our programmers, we had Vincent, who's here with us. We also had Valencia, who is our narrative programmer slash all-purpose programmer savior. And then we had Trey, who is working on some of the mechanics. And then for art, we had Austin, who was working with RPG Maker as well as making some custom art for like the menu design and our itch layout. And then we had Lola, who was working on some of the UI assets. For music, we had Dave, who is the jack of all trades and had some really cool thoughts of how to integrate the audio in for this particular submission. And we had Tim, who was our game designer. I was the narrative designer slash producer. And I think that's everybody. And if I forgot someone, that is terrible. That's everybody, right? That's got to be everybody.
I know there was a lot. I think that's good.
Yeah. Okay. We got everybody. Great.
Yeah. Lots of small contributors in this one, yeah, for sure. Yeah, which is cool. So Bear's already pulled up the main slide with showing the title card, The Haunting of You. Y'all want to give a brief synopsis of the game, of like what it is, in essence, real quick before we jump into some more details about it.
Sure thing. I'll take this one again, Vincent. So, The Haunting of You is a top-down 2D platformer about a poltergeist-infested house, where the player character must solve ritual puzzles to soothe the ghosts in various levels to free their house of these ghosts, or not free them. Who knows? Who knows? Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. Good stuff. Um, all right, cool. Well, let's jump into some of the details in that case. Let's break it down. Um, I guess we'll just go slide by slide because I think we just have screenshots of this one.
Yep.
So, what you call it? Suppose with the given that somewhat of a explanation of I guess of the events as they occur, or with mixed with some of the gameplay moments as we go through this. I think that would be easiest, I suppose.
Yep.
Yeah. Let's go ahead to the next one.
Yeah. That Haunting of You art was developed by Austin. He did it in one day, and it's great. Great. Is the next slide up? There we go. Perfect. So both the opening cutscene and the ending cutscene have this same black background, white text for dramatic effect and, communicating some sense of isolation / some other literary stuff I could come up with. But yeah, this opening cutscene kind of sets the scene for what this game is going to be. The person speaking, spoiler alert, is a ghost that is interested in possessing the main character's body. And they are kind of giving these moody, esoteric sentences that are kind of there to disorient the player, but as well as kind of set the scene for this kind of dark situation that the player is entering. All right, next slide. Perfect. My YouTube is a little behind the stream, I think, but the next slide is correct. I think we're in the room, right? We're probably in the main character's room. So the main character wakes up. They hear a scream from somewhere. They think it is from their sister's room. So they go to their sister's room to see what the scream is about. We can go to the next slide. They knock on the door. They hear another scream. There's some dialogue there about how the main character is apologizing for a fight the night prior. And as a general note for the submission, the narrative is probably the largest scope of this entire piece. The narrative is quite expansive, and the psychology for each of those characters is like there's a lot more than what's presented here. But yeah, there was a fight the night prior, and the main characters apologizing, but also is trying to check on their sister. I think this slide here isn't that one, but I can go through this one as well. This one is for the spirit world puzzle. There's traversal between the physical world and the spirit world to solve those puzzles. And there are firewalls that the player must work around by removing the physical walls to get through the area. That unfortunately was cut from the main submission, but we are still working to get that in for a version. So this slide here,
travel between the spirit world and the physical world for the just the main character themselves.
That is correct. They are a medium, so they have some type of affinity with the spirit world. I think we call it limbo now because it's less words, and that's great for me. So yeah, limbo. They traverse back and forth to kind of solve these. What do we call it? Not location-based puzzles. There's a certain terminology for the type of puzzle that it would be, but you're kind of working around, a map. You're working around a map that has places you cannot pass through. So those are the puzzles that you're kind of working with. And this slide here is another cutscene where the character is talking to Theophilus, who is the kind of ghost of this level that needs to kind of be reconciled with so they can move on to another part of the house. Their sister was not in the bedroom. She screamed, and then they tried to go in, and then she wasn't there. And Theophilus is telling them that they're going to have to solve a puzzle or for Theophilus to give them a hint about where their sister is.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we can go to the next slide. All right, and then here's the record puzzle. So Theophilus, in his past life, is some type of jazz musician or something like that. He wanted to check if the main character had taste. There are some underlying themes about gentrification and culture and how affluent Black families may leave that behind. And these ghosts that come to the house are kind of from a different period of time and are kind of fighting to take their house back that has kind of been stripped of all this culture. So this puzzle here that is kind of like a culture test kind of encapsulates that idea that was kind of bubbling behind the scenes for this submission. So he's kind of testing the player, like, let's see if you have taste, right? There's a couple genres here. There were some ideas about how to make this a little bit more challenging, but I think we just had one jazz piece in here. And the player selects that, and if they pass that test, Theophilus is in agreement with them and helps them. And if they do not select the right piece, they fail that test, and the counter for the game over increases by 1. So this slide here is for the game design document that we came up with. It is a lot longer than this, but this is the first page, which has some of the game identity and the design pillars and the genre, story, mechanic summary. There's much more here, and I am very invested in the theory of how to make game design documents more functional, because not that this one wasn't, but it was long. People say the best ones are 1 page, and I don't know how you do that. But yeah, I found the design pillars to be a helpful thing to reference back to. I don't know if we ever really got in agreement about the design pillars that we were fully adamant about, but it was like a good arguing tool, also a check for just ideas in general to be like, how does it feed into those design pillars that we identified? I found that to be a helpful thing to do. All right, and I think we have one more slide, which is of the Notion, I think. And the Notion was an organizing tool that I implemented with varying levels of success. That tracked a lot of our project tasks as well as our documentation. So it kind of functioned as a file directory, as well as like a project management tool, as well as a bunch of other stuff. Helpful. We're working on it. Vincent, did you have anything to add to, I guess maybe from a programming perspective, some of the stuff that we accomplished for this project?
Yeah, just I guess from a programming perspective, it was interesting doing like a story-based game where the story is the main focus, and I think we spent a lot of time on the systems for the narrative, and getting those working, and that I think is pretty good. There's some interesting challenges of like how do you implement like getting a story, like getting long text into a game engine and like making that work, and like timing things out, like making cutscenes and all that stuff. I think we learned a lot about like how to set up like intros and stuff, and kind of make things work out. Almost like directing them in the engine, I think, is a big change for a lot of us. Because I think at least for me, in my experience, a lot of stuff I've done has been like very like it's just like simple mechanic stuff, and it's just like you start and you just play the game, kind of thing. So I think it was interesting learning a lot more about getting a story to work, and not just like you can jump and move and stuff, and you can just figure it out from there.
Right.
A lot more complex than I think we initially thought it would be.
Right. What did y'all use for the narrative as far as like the tools, I guess?
Yeah, so that was all imported using Inkle.
It's
which
Inky Inkle something.
Yeah.
Ink
Okay.
something.
Yeah. So like the tool is made by Studio Inc. I think is what their
I
team
think
name is. But
so. Yeah.
they do a lot of like cool story based games, and they made their whole tool for their games, and they just kind of like open sourced it for whoever wants to use it. So Valencia implemented that, which you could just like you kind of just write up the script and you kind of put some tags in it, and then you can just import it into their like editor and just bring it in when you need it.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, that's what's up. Yeah, it's interesting talking about narrative focus between like this one and Levester's team, where like they primarily used VO and then some like environmental hints, so to speak, as he kind of showed in their like video, versus this one, which is like uses like a lot more like dialogue to communicate, the events of what's happening in kind of like a larger story that's a little bit more. I would say has a little bit more complexity in some ways, in the way it has to be delivered. So it's interesting the two differences there. Which is like the needs are very different from the storytelling perspectives in those games. So yeah, interesting. All right, well let's move on to just some general questions about the jam and stuff then, since we were talking about that. Um, Given Vincent's perspective as a programmer and Chad being a writer and producer and stuff like that, I guess what were some of the fun aspects of the jam for y'all, and some things that were enjoyable in the process?
Yeah, I guess I can go. I can go first. I think the enjoyable stuff for me was just figuring out. Well, enjoyable is subjective here, but I mean, like figuring out how to split up work with so many programmers. I think was interesting. It was just like, okay, we got like three of us. We all read it from varying times. Like, how are we gonna get this all done? Um, and just like trying to figure that out with like this new stuff. And it's like also some people were more familiar with Unity, like myself, or less familiar, and just kind of like helping out others when they had a problem.
Yeah.
It's something I enjoy. So if it's like, oh yeah, like I don't know how to do this, like oh yeah, I can show you, and we can like walk through it, kind of thing. I think it's always an enjoyable part of the game jam process, especially with newcomers.
It sounds like it was like a mixed bag of like that was challenging and also enjoyable at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely challenging, but I think learning from that, it's like in hindsight, it's like, oh yeah, I mean, like I have fun with
Yeah.
figuring that kind of stuff out. But
Okay, I can get with that. Yeah,
Yeah,
Chad, what about
either.
you?
Oh,
Oh, go ahead, Bear.
no, I was just gonna say either something's usually fun, joyful, or it's a learning experience. Yeah, that's a good like frame, a way to frame everything. So
That's real.
anyway, please chat. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. This is a non-answer, but I have to address it because like it did remove a lot of stress for me. Not having to build schedules around people in Europe was like a big deal. Like not having to be like, oh my god, like it's gonna be like midnight for you, and oh my god, I still have to do that for some of my projects, and it just takes a lot out of me. I didn't have to do that for this one. So it was really cool to be able to have touch bases like frequently throughout the week at times that weren't too demanding for people was, I think, definitely a lifesaver for this project and allowed me to kind of like do this on appropriate hours instead of like feeling like I'm working like on the jam while also at my day job while also doing like 10 other things. So it was good to be able to be like, oh yeah, after work, I can have a meeting, don't have to have it at 2 o'clock and like pretend like I'm online and just move my mouse around on Microsoft Teams so my manager thinks I'm there. So that's kind of like a non-point. I think what I think I would say was truly enjoyable was I think coming up with the concept and just working through some of the game design challenges with Tim. I found to be an enjoyable experience. the narrative itself was cool to come up with, but just kind of figuring out a way for that to kind of be cohesive with the game design and checking it against like what we're actually trying to do, I found to just be a very fun exercise. We've since learned that while it is fun to do that, there are some drawbacks when you spend that manpower coming up with concept, when the programmers do need to get their hands dirty in like the concept itself. So there is definitely a lesson learned there where it's great, like if you have all the time in the world, to really think about that concept, to get it nailed down before you get people working on things. But I think there's a trap there where you think to deliver a good product, you need to have that concept ironed out, but in fact, kind of just need something loose, get the programmers to do it, refine it, and there's like a feedback loop that happens, I think, later on in the project. There's some front loading that I think needs to happen in a project, but I don't think that concept work should be holding up programmers and like the crap that they'll be running into, which is a lot of crap. Like they have so much crap. It's
I think I would say the Vester mentioned something similar when he was chatting about some of the challenging parts with their team. The writers brought on 3 days after start point, but then actually their concept wasn't more concrete until about a week, and that limited what they could actually accomplish, right? So definitely that speaks to that same thing, I think, as well. That challenge.
Doesn't it though like answer the right way to do it though? Because I don't feel like it's the same. It sounds like they did like what we should have done. Like they had the looser concept that stayed loose for longer, right? And they were able to kind of figure it out in that second week and just kind of make those on the spot compromises versus like I think taking more time on the concept and then kind of holding back people from getting their hands in the actual mechanics. And then like trying to execute the full concept that second week, and then things are not really coming together because we haven't really tested and R&D'd and seen like everything come together yet. I think the more I guess if we were to do a comparison to Levester's team, I think that was more of a truly iterative, like we're just going with the flow type of thing. And I think for this one, I think we needed a little bit more of that, of like a little bit more listening to what the project needed and what we were capable of.
Yeah, I would say there's definitely some of that aspect as well. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah. With that said about the particular points you brought up in regards to like the idea and the concept, let's jump into kind of how the concept came to be initially with it, as well as the perspective shift theme, the diaspora, which is like very prevalent, especially like for y'all's in particular because of the extra art that was given for the characters in particular. A lot of character art in this one. So it's like, oh, obviously, you got like some melanated folks in there. So, but how did y'all come up with the idea? Given the concept did take a while to come to. How did that happen?
Yeah, so unlike Levester's team, which I think they knew what they were doing, like from the not necessarily from the jump, but they knew early on, like, oh yeah, plantain chips, grandma's house, like they got to that. I saw it in their chat. They got to that pretty quickly, and they just kind of worked from there. We had a few ideas. We were kind of doing some pitches between the members. Tim and I had pitches, and I don't really recall if there were any other ones, but we were basically choosing between those 2 rounds of pitches. I could be wrong. There might be more. And then we ended up settling on the haunted house idea. The perspective that this haunted house concept was supposed to have was thinking about like the playing as the ghost or like trying to haunt a house. It was still that gentrified concept was still very forward, but of course would be played very subtly in the submission itself. But you're playing as like a ghost trying to keep people out is what it originally started as. And the perspective shift was kind of an unexpected point of view in that game was like what the perspective shift was. That ended up changing once we started digging into the narrative a little bit more, digging in a little bit more into the game design and what we actually wanted to do, there was a point where we were distracting the ghost, and like that was a thing, and then that wasn't really working. Like it was difficult to build levels around it. It was breaking too easily. Then we moved from distracting the ghost to the player needing to get somewhere in a limited amount of time, and stop making things directionally based and like doing enemy AI and like routes. Like it was less that and more just like you have a time limit to get somewhere, and kind of leveraging the player's imagination to kind of you know it's screens giving you feedback, like the music's giving you feedback, something's going to happen, and you just imagine it instead of us having to move a physical ghost around the map. And like it was a lot. So the perspective shift, I think, at the end of the day, it's I think it's a little tricky to say what it actually is, because it did a lot of morphing, and I think there came a point where it was like, well, yes, the perspective shift, I think, is an important part of this jam and allowed us to at least get the inception of the idea. But I don't really think it drove, once we reached the ideas that we were confident in and could execute. I don't really think it was a driving force in that, but it definitely was how we kicked it off. But yeah, as far as perspective shift goes on the current submission, I can't really. I'd have to do some exercising to really, unless Vincent, if you have any ideas, but I don't really think the perspective shift is really. Oh, it's the transitioning between limbo and the physical world. Never mind. There we go. That's what it is. Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah,
we still passed.
Yeah.
We passed. Okay.
Do you have anything to add to the ideation, Vince?
No, I just think it was. I think it was very difficult at first, just like narrowing it down. Because we did have like the pitches, and like you had your pitch, which was like also very interesting. I think we were like kind of combining ideas, like parts of different things at first, and then it went through so many iteration processes. It was very interesting to go through actually, and just like talk about like, okay, well, this, even without like putting it into an engine, it's like, I don't know how this is going to work. We should move to something else, like
Yeah.
just doing that whole process was very new. And I think dealing with having to do like the theme of the like kind of like tying it into like the African diaspora, and then also doing like the theme itself of like perspective shift was like, okay, we have to do like two things here, and we need to like make it work with the story, and I think that was also like a little tricky to like, and I think maybe we could maybe get less hung up. We could have just like chose to lean into more one or the other, I think that was just like a new thing for everybody. It was just like, okay, how do you make this? Not how do you make it black. I mean, like we're all, we're all, we're all black. It was more like, how do we keep it in line? Because it's like a story thing, right? It's like, how do you make this relevant, but also have it be something mechanically interesting? I think is like a whole new, like,
different way of thinking.
A whole new way of thinking for everybody.
Yeah, I'd definitely say that there was like a lot of like there was like some familiarity in the process, but also a lot of like doing new things that the different team members hadn't done in whichever way, if it's tools or certain mechanics and stuff like that. It was like there were a bunch of new stuff that were also being tried and experimented with, right? So there's that challenge in that process. Dave made a note. He was talking about I think the record puzzle. There was a jazz song that the team had that after some discussion didn't fit the narrative. So the jazz song was kept as a trick answer, and then to kind of test like the type of jazz, I think that was appropriate for the Theophilus ghost character. Which style of jazz in particular, I think was it what it was. Yeah. Good note. Yeah. Um, let's see then. Otherwise, yeah, I guess considering that, like, as things were not finished, y'all did the screenshots, and there's some pieces that seem or were missing. What is next for y'all in the team? What would you do next with more time?
Yeah.
So
So go ahead,
oh,
Vincent. Go ahead.
okay. So currently we actually met about like next steps on this, and I think we're gonna try to. Oh, we're not gonna try to. We are going to be dedicating some time in the next couple weeks to just getting the other puzzle in the limbo puzzle, and making that work, and then also making some of the, I guess, adding some of the juice into it. So like the interactive, yeah, the interactive experience stuff. So like adding in more stuff to like say, oh, this is where you should go, or this is what you can interact with in this moment, and making that stuff more obvious for the player experience. And we did like a play test of just like, okay, on the user's end, like, what are you thinking when you play this, and how can we make this better? So we're gonna add a lot of that stuff in to make the puzzles clearer. And then also, I think we're gonna do some, and I think chat can speak more to this, but I think we're also gonna like make sure that like the story parts that were input that were put in, like the order of it makes sense. So I think we're gonna do a little rearranging of some cutscenes maybe as well.
Very cool. Okay. Get with that. Try to wrap things up. Yeah. Make it more cohesive, right? That's
Yep.
good. Yeah. And lastly, yeah, like what studio, once this experience will be wrapped up, right? And it was like, okay, cool, a narrative's there. I was like, what studio you think would, like, will y'all shop it to help publish it or something like that?
Our wallets, i.e., self-publish, and I say that, it's half a joke, but I say it because I haven't seen like this game yet as a whole function. So I don't even know if I could shop it around yet because I know the baby on paper, but I haven't seen like the baby like actually speak yet. So I can't really, I don't know. I could only say self-published because I just don't know the identity of the game right now. Like I haven't played the mechanics of it. Like I haven't played it, so I don't know. So that's my answer.
Fair.
Yeah,
I would say, yeah, I would think also self-publishing, because it's like the kind of game that I think of when I think of the like vibe of this kind of game. I'm thinking like, oh, it's like those like not like niche horror games that you find on like itch.io or something, but it kind of is more like that, where it's like this is a game that a team makes that they know that they can only make, and you just got to put it out there on your own terms. At least for now, and it makes more sense to me to do it that way too.
I like Vincent answered better. I take Vincent's answer. Hey, retcon what I said. Just go with Vincent. Yeah.
We'll edit it out in post. I got you.
Oh, so you gotta put it out on our own terms, aka there's no one he can think of that would be able to want it. It pushes the boundary too much in some direction.
Right, it's shaking the table, so we have to make our own table, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Leave that in post.
Oh man, I love it, love it. All right, awesome, awesome. Well, yeah, I think that covers it for today, y'all. Thanks for coming on to give a little background and some detail about the process of it all. I'm sure with considering that y'all will be trying to wrap things up as a team over the next couple of months or so, that will, probably try to do something, to bring some attention to it, or let y'all like show it again or in some way for the group as a whole, for the game kitchen in particular. So we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But yeah, it was good chatting and getting some of those details out. So I enjoyed it. Yeah,
Yeah, thank you both. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
absolutely. Yeah. I guess
Tim, yeah, you want to close this out? Yeah.
we can close out and wrap up. What you call it? Yeah, Vince and Chad, y'all can go ahead and head out, and Bear and I will wrap up real quick.
All right. Deuces.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
All right,
All
thanks.
right, guys. Very cool. Yeah, any standouts for you, Bear?
No, I just want to thank everyone for taking the time, spending it spending an hour with us, going over the submissions, learning
hmm
about each of the processes behind the decision making, seeing directions chosen, because that is the hardest part, is just figuring out like which direction you want to go in. So
Gotta choose
yeah.
which way. Yep.
So on top of doing that, yeah, they also spent the time, to explain that stuff for us. So
Yeah, that was good. Yeah. Levester said to Chad's comment earlier, no one else sees the vision. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely some interesting stuff. I like seeing like the parallels that pop up between ideas or some of the challenges and things like that. It's like plenty of like learning opportunity for like teams, people that are somewhat experienced and folks that are less experienced, but like each teams individuals like having like some similar challenges or individual challenges to kind of learn from and take away from, which is cool. So yeah, definitely had some good stuff today. Yeah.
yeah. Looking forward to the next jam. Yeah.
Yeah. We haven't scheduled the next one yet, but that will be coming relatively soon, probably in the next few weeks, in particular, as far as figuring out some of the details and upcoming scheduling. We try to either align with other events or align to make sure we're not colliding with other major events happening, right?
Not to a
But
major degree. Yeah.
yeah. But considering the holiday season is upcoming soon, so we'll have to be a little crafty at trying to time if we're going to do one between now and the holidays. The right timing for that is important. So we'll be figuring that out, as well as what the upcoming theme is going to be, and choosing that as well. So we should have some interesting stuff on the table. Um, but in the meantime, we will be chatting and hopefully doing some continued work on the current jams as well, current jam games that we just put out, and hopefully having some other more casual events with the game kitchen, about like some learnings and ideation on improvements in jam preps kind of stuff, and see what else everyone else wants to do. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Keep checking the Discord. There will be notifications. Yeah.
indeed. Yeah, we'll try to do some other events coming up, some other small stuff coming up and whatnot. So, but yeah, good stuff. Appreciate it, Bear. Yeah.
Oh no, thank you. Good job hosting. You nailed it. Thank you everyone once again for stopping by and interacting.
Yeah. And the link for the jam will be in the description of this video if you are not in our Discord. And so you can visit that. I think there's a couple small things. One of the submissions is currently not hooked up properly to the page, so we'll be fixing that hopefully this weekend. But yeah, if you want more details on that, that will be on there. You'll be able to find everybody's information on their individual submission pages, right? If you wanted to inquire to them or something like that. So yeah, that'll be on there too. But with that said, I guess we'll wrap up, dude.
Yeah. Until next time.
Yeah, till next
I
time.
just keep waving. See ya. See ya.
All right, peace.